Stephanie, you're on mute. Do you know you're on mute? I'm sorry. You're still on mute. Mm-mm.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I swear I'm going to get this down by the sixth one, our final one. I swear.
I'm
So
afraid when
again,
we all get it down, we won't have to use it that often any longer.
fair. So I just wanted to mention that I'm going to allow a few more minutes for some more people to trickle in. I'm Stephanie Martin Tom. I'm with the Onondaga County DA's office, and I want to thank you all for being here. I do want to remind everyone that this is a recorded Zoom call, and these recordings will be posted on our police reform website. Please don't let that prevent you from making any of the substantive comments that you would like to make here tonight. So I'll allow a few more minutes, and then Nadesha will take the reins on it, and we'll begin.
Yes.
All right. So we will go ahead and begin tonight's community forum on police reform. I will allow our facilitator, Nadesha Hernandez from Senator Rachel May's office, take the lead here.
Thank you for that, Stephanie, and thank you for putting this together, Stephanie. I want to say thank you, and I want to welcome everyone who's on this call. I want to let everyone know that we're going to be respectful. As we already know, we're going to respect each other's comments, and we're going to raise our hand in the chat box when we want to make a comment. We do have some comments, and I would like to read those comments if you do not feel comfortable enough coming on and making a comment. Each participant will have about 4 minutes to make that comment. We had a forum on the 7th, and I just want to give you a little summary about that forum on the 7th. On the 7th, we spoke a lot about the comfortability of African American minorities, Black and Brown people, driving in the suburbs of Onondaga County. We are here today to take public comments on the Governor's Executive Order 203. And I just wanted to give a little bit of background about Clay, New York. So tonight we'll be discussing Onondaga County northern parts, the town of Cicero, Clay, Lysander, Salina, Van Buren, and the village of Liverpool, which is Salina, and the village of Baldwinsville and North Syracuse. I just want to give a little background about Clay because we had some comments about Clay and them not having any police out there in Clay. So a couple of years back, the town of Clay decided to collaborate with Onondaga County sheriffs, and they got rid of their department to save some taxes out there. So no, Clay does not have a police department. They still have a municipality out there with the court. They are policed by Onondaga County sheriffs and also, as we know, state troopers. Before we get started, we're going to let Stephanie give us a little bit more background. She has a presentation for us, and then we'll start with the comments.
Well, I would say we do have a few noted members of our community here that I would like to give the floor to first. Senator Rachel May is present. Thank you for being here tonight. I do appreciate it. Would you like to make some comments?
Yes, thank you. And thanks to everybody who's here. I know the events of last Wednesday that were so tragic really brought to the fore how very important it is that we find that middle ground where we really can feel that that communities have faith in the police departments and law enforcement can have faith that they are going to be met with welcome and not with force in their own when they come to our aid. And so I'm grateful to the governor for setting up this process so that we can really think about how the relationships should be between law enforcement and the communities they serve, and to all of you who are here to really try to work on this difficult and important issue. So thanks so much. And thanks to Disa, my amazing Director of Community Outreach, Idicia Hernandez, for setting this up.
And thank you for allowing us to steal her for these community forums, Senator. Appreciate it. We also do have County Exec Ryan McMahon here present. If County Exec, if you would like to say some words.
Sure. Thank you again, and it's good to see Nodisha and Senator May. Great to see you as well. And Mayor Clark, I see you. You look very comfortable as well. But I'm just really here. I'm pleased that we're having these discussions as a community, and wish we could be having them in person, but we're working through this pandemic a day at a time. But it's important that we have this dialogue and we talk, and as important, we listen and try to understand perspectives, reflect on ways how we can all improve in our jobs, because we're stronger when we really work together. So I'm here to listen, to hear what the community has to say. I know Stephanie will talk about process. Each jurisdiction via the governor's order will put together a plan. The legislative bodies will consider that plan. And there may be ideas that come out of these discussions that the county legislature wants to then take and consider and make policy. So it's important that you participate and you get whatever's on your mind out on the table. So thank you for taking time to participate tonight.
All right, thank you, County Exec. And I would like to, again, echo those same sentiments. Thank you all for being here tonight. Now, I will share a screen. I have a slight presentation that I would like to share with you. So as you have probably already figured out, our facilitator for tonight is Ms. Deja Hernandez. As to the rules of engagement for tonight's community forum, I will present a brief presentation and then we will proceed with public input. Each individual, albeit it says 3 minutes here, will have 4 minutes for any public comment that they would like to make. If you are interested in making any public comments here tonight, I would ask that you either raise your hand using the raise your hand feature that Zoom provides, or if you would like, you can put your name in the chat and we will have you make your public comments in order as when those names are coming in. You also are able to submit written statements and or comments to the nyspr@ongov.net email. If you do not feel comfortable making your public comment on this Zoom call, you can always submit them electronically as well. Now, we did get here tonight, and because of Executive Order 203, which was initiated as a result of a national occurrence here out in Minneapolis, where George Floyd was murdered by the police, and an 8-minute and 46-second video that I'm sure some of you have already seen. Executive Order 203 by Governor Cuomo essentially says that we need to reimagine and reinvent policing in order for our police agencies to receive funding. So each police agency must submit a plan that addresses the reimagining and reinventing of policing in order to get funding. Now, this plan has to be submitted by April 1st of this year. Now, as a result, Onondaga County took a county-wide initiative, which we formed a collaborative effort in order to address Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 203, which is a similar initiative that other counties have taken with regards to Executive Order 203. Our collaborative effort resulted in a committee that was made up of 5 subcommittees. Those subcommittees were broken down into police structure, which is headed by Chief Kenton Buckner, police and community relations, which is headed by Helen Hudson, the president of the Syracuse Common Council. The third is crime analysis, which is headed by Sheriff Gene Conway and Chief Deputy Joe Cicerelli. Our fourth subcommittee is training, which is headed by Chief Michael J. Crowell from the Manlius Police Department, who is also the president of the Chiefs for all of Onondaga County. And our last subcommittee is the Alternative to Police Response, which is headed by Linda Irvin from our Onondaga County legislators. Now, we broke our committee down to these 5 subcommittees as a response to the 14 points that are within Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 203. Each police agency must have the plan with regards to reinventing and reimagining policing that addresses all 14 points. Our plan also will be addressing the points made by Mayor Walsh for Syracuse, which is 16 points. So we have broken our subcommittees down to address all 14 points here. So with that being said, we again have created a website that has the links to Executive Order 203. So if you want to read the Executive Order verbatim, you can go there, which also has the link to the Syracuse website for Mayor Walsh's Executive Order. And you can see here that our website is policereform.ongov.net. I will put that again in the chat, and any comments that you would make, please feel free to put your name in the chat, as well as submit them to the chat or via the email that you have here. Now, again, each person will have 4 minutes, and please do not hesitate. We do have some comments that have come in, which I will name the individuals that have previously submitted comments. So if you are here and you would like to actually say your comments, you can put your name in the chat to let us know. We have Miss Sarah Cole, Miss Jacqueline Lasandi, Miss Linda Bell, Mr. Joseph Bennett, Miss Caroline Stafford, Mr. George M. Jones, Mr. Robert Brownell, Miss Mary McCarthy, Mr. Gerald Whaley, Mr. David Babcock, Mr. Dale Parker, Miss Shakara Freeney, Miss Kathy Patterson, Mr. John DeCentis. If any of you would like to go ahead and submit your name, and I see Miss Sarah Cole has. So Nadesha, I will now turn the reins over to you, and I will have Miss Sarah Cole unmuted.
Yes. And I'm going to keep time just to make it fair. You just have to be trustworthy of me and understand that I am over here, and I will cut you off at about 4 minutes, so we can be fair and everyone can have the same amount of time to make their comments. And thank you, Sarah.
Okay, so I live out in the Tully area, and I missed our community forum, obviously. So I thought I'd hop on tonight. I'm really trying to understand the, what is it called? The right to know.
Right to Know Act.
Yes, the Right to Know Act. I honestly was in the dark about that whole issue because I assumed if you were stopped, this is coming from a place of privilege, I thought a police officer was supposed to tell you why you were stopped and to give you his information afterwards. I was really shocked when I watched the hearing in July and found out that that isn't a procedure. I mean, they don't have to tell you is what I was discovered. But now that it's been passed, you know, did some research and it doesn't look like it's being used. So I guess I just want to know what the holdup is on that, and am I understanding the act? Am I understanding the Right to Know Act?
And thank you, Sarah, because we're here tonight to educate and to make sure that the community understand why we're here and what we're here to speak about. Are there any of our police officers or any of our county executive? Is the DA on, or anyone who wants to take that question?
Chief Sister Copy. So I will start off by saying that Right to Know is being addressed in our county-wide effort in terms of enacting a county-wide Right to Know plan. Now, what that would look like is something that is a fluid plan right now. So we can't really give you the details of what that would look like right now. But it's certainly something that we are looking into. I do know that Syracuse has their own Right to Know plan that they have enacted. And I want to just start off by saying this countywide effort that we have here is essentially an umbrella effort that each police agency would likely adopt and then use and have to have submitted by their legislators and approved by their legislators. So it's going to be a little bit different from agency to agency, but the idea is that the very pillars for everybody's plan are going to be the same. Therefore, when it comes to such things as use of force, the use of force plan should be the same going across the board, whether you're in Syracuse, whether you're in Tully, whether you're in do it. Now, as it pertains to the right to know, there might be an umbrella plan for a right to know, but it may be a little bit different for each police agency. For example, Syracuse is having each individual officer hand out a card to those who request it. It's not necessarily feasible for our smaller agencies to do that. So we might have a separate, each agency have a separate plan for themselves. But it's something that we are addressing and definitely looking to involve in a countywide effort. I hope that gave a little clarity, even though it's not as detailed as we would hope at this stage. So I do apologize for that.
Can I ask one more question about that?
Sure.
Certainly.
I don't mean to interrupt, but if I was pulled over, or if a friend of mine was pulled over by a police officer, do I understand that they don't have to tell you why they're pulling you over?
Well, my understanding is that the police officers do exercise that practice now. I do have Chief Mike Crowell on the call. I will give him the reins as it pertains to, because he is the president of the chiefs. So if Chief Crowell would like to address that countywide.
Yeah, sure, Stephanie. Thank you. I appreciate that. So most of the agencies in Onondaga County, it's my understanding, exercise the standard of telling people why they're stopped. And a lot of that comes from what we call verbal judo training, which a lot of the agencies in Onondaga County is adopted. And in the verbal judo training, it specifically says that when you stop somebody, you identify yourself and you tell them immediately why they're stopped. Now, that is good training, and it's been generally accepted by many agencies in Onondaga County. But as you indicated, it's not the law. The law does not require you to do that. One of the reasons why is police officers need to identify who they're speaking to when they make a traffic stop before they start getting into, a discussion as to why. In addition to that, there's levels of DeBoer that every agency in New York State follows, and those levels of DeBoer are associated with police and citizen contacts, and it's also related to traffic stops. So now that is law. It's been around for quite some time, and every law enforcement agency in Onondaga County follows levels of DeBoer as it's related to police citizen contacts. So there's a lot of information right there, but that really is how we operate, and each agency in Onondaga County operates differently. And as Stephanie indicated, the right to know legislation is specific to the city of Syracuse because it was passed by their common council. If right to know was something that other municipalities would be interested in, that would also have to be passed through those individual legislative bodies.
And thank you for that, Michael Crowley. Sarah, do you have any other questions or concerns about that?
Not at the moment.
Okay, thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephanie. Go ahead,
Yes,
Stephanie.
no, go ahead, Nadesha.
I was just gonna ask you who else was in the chat.
We have Miss Barry Genwater, and I will be asking her to unmute now.
Hi, and
Barry,
Stephanie.
wait 1 second. I just want to start the timer. Go ahead, Barry.
Hi, Stephanie. And just for future references, it's Gawanter, but that's a frequent mispronunciation, and I take no offense. One quick note in reference to Ms. Cole's comment. Practices with police differ department to department. Policies differ department to department. Thresholds for certain types of actions differ from department to department, and culturally, there is often a different approach when officers do stops, urban departments versus suburban departments versus rural policing. One of the reasons the right to know law was sought was that there is a perception that's been voiced in several of the forums that African Americans feel that they are stop more frequently, or for little or no reason, or based on pretexts. And I have heard that voice throughout my career, but I've also heard it voiced in the forums, and people that have had that experience can speak for themselves. I've attended every forum. Yesterday, in particular, there were issues I brought up in previous forums that were echoed again. Issues about officer demeanor, issues about inadequate supervision of officer conduct, the issue of how stops and searches are conducted. Today, I have 3 questions. 1, how in all of the departments being considered and in this collaborative, are supervisors instructed to address and make corrections for officer behavior on scene or within the same shift in response to a citizen complaint of things like force or demeanor? 2, what plans are being made or what proposals are being considered in the training subcommittee or any other subcommittee, including police community relations, for new training for supervisors that is related to this issue of supervisors not making corrections on scene or within the shift? Third thing, Twiggy Bill, you brought up issues about people needing to feel that they are being heard, and Mark Cass brought up issues of communication. It's very hard to be heard or to get a response from officers if the officers and the people that are seeking to be heard do not speak the same language, or the people that are wanting to be heard or have an issue don't speak English. Departments and municipalities and officers have a legal obligation to provide interpretation in police encounters when you cannot get the point across one way or the other in simple notes or in English. There's actually a legal obligation here. So my question is, what proposals are going to be made by this consortium to ensure that every department has a mobile, on-demand interpreting service available via a cell phone or an iPad or some other portable device? And then secondly, what kind of training is being suggested to ensure that those services are used? And I can recall examples when people who are deaf, particularly in the city, interacted with officers, even when the officers knew they were about to interact with somebody who was deaf, and there was absolutely no effort to provide an interpreter, either in person or via a mobile device. And that is very, very important. And this is not just an issue for Spanish speakers. It's also an issue for the people that come from many countries that have come to our community and become a part of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. And Barry, you did have a couple of questions in there. So I'm going to ask any one of the officers or the DA's office if they want to start with answering your question about, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, about how they're going to handle being able to understand those who speak different languages, and not just languages, but maybe persons who are deaf and can't hear. And how are they going to provide services and interactions when they interact with this community?
And the deaf do have language. It's just a language other than English.
I'm sorry, and yes,
okay.
and I'm sorry about that. So is there anyone, I misspoken, is there anyone who would like to answer that?
No, DC, it's Mike Kroll. I can talk to a little bit of that, and I've attended each and every one of these webinars, and Barry makes a great point on supervision. You know, some of the pillars associated with successful law enforcement is having good policy, having good training, and lastly, and the third and probably most important, is good supervision. So most of the agencies now in the county understand that, and not only do they meet the requirements of DCJS on initial supervisor training, which is mandated, and they receive a lot of information on a lot of those topics that were discussed. But I know that most of the agencies now in Onondaga County also send their supervisors to supplemental training that are associated with, you know, communication, discipline, handling citizen complaints and those types of things. As far as plans, I can tell you that in some of the draft plans that I've seen, at least for my subcommittees, they include a lot of recommendations for training, specifically in the area of dealing with citizen complaints and those types of things. And then lastly, as far as foreign language and deaf that is definitely a mandate. Barry is 100% correct. And we get some of that through the 911 center, which is offered through a county program, but that's really upon the initial call. As far as field interpreters for whatever language or individuals that sign, I don't know of any agency that has the ability to do that, but I also know that it's extremely expensive to be able to have that in place. And like many things that we've discussed in all of these forums and right from the initial onset of Executive Order 203, a lot of this comes down to funding and how are we going to be able to fund some of those programs for local law enforcement to be able to address some of these needs. And you may or may not know, but there's zero funding in Executive Order 203, and it really falls back on the individual municipalities. So I think I addressed all three of those.
Chief Crowell, I just want to suggest that I'm not talking.
Barry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we want to be fair. So I just want to let you know that you had about 15, 20 seconds left.
Okay. I'm not talking about in-person interpreters. I'm talking about a service that can be used on a mobile phone that is much cheaper than you think. I am happy to provide technical assistance in how those services work and how you can access them. Please feel free to call me. I will put my email in the chat. Done.
Thank you, Barry. You and I have worked together on other issues, and you've always been extremely professional, receptive, and I've always been available for us to meet. So I will definitely reach out to you.
Thank you.
All that.
And I do just want to remind folks, because we might have folks that just joined us, that if you would like to make a comment, to please put your zip code and raise your hand in the chat, and we will allow you to make comments. I do see a lot of comments in the chat. If you would like to make those comments, please raise your hand. And we do have comments that came in that we can also read if you're not comfortable making your comment on Zoom right now. Okay, and we have Hassan from Rebirth.
I think Hassan is pointing up to the comment from Twiggy. Ms. Twiggy, I will unmute you if you would. Oh, you would like me to read yours? Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. Ms. Twiggy says, our children are being harassed and brutalized by officers in city and county. What is the policy? Now, if I assuming correctly, I'm assuming you're referring to the use of force policy, Ms. Twiggy. If that is the case, I will again reiterate that what we're attempting to do here is have a plan that has a pillar that goes throughout the county. For example, if there is a use of force policy in the city of Syracuse, it would be essentially the same use of force policy in the other jurisdictions, and whether it be the town of Liverpool or the town of DeWitt, it would essentially be the same things. Therefore, the policy would be the same. No policy for dealing with children under 16. Well, Ms. Twiggy, for dealing with children under 16, I'm not sure what you're referring to. I do think that it'd probably be better if you explain where your comment is coming from, if you don't mind. You have, there we go.
Thank you. I've been on several scenes, riding by, seeing things where we have, I'll just stick with a particular incident. So we were on Valley Drive this summer. I got a phone call that some children that I knew, or at least they thought that my son was being surrounded by police. So I seen this video. It seemed like a lot of police were there. So I left and went to the scene. Wanted to make sure everything was okay. It's, you know, the summer was hard for us and it was just nerve wracking. I get there and I see these African children. I mean, non-English, but African, maybe immigrant or refugee children. They were females, very young, being accosted by our officers. They were in tears. I don't know if there might have been a language barrier or whatnot, but no matter what they said was not enough to have the officer call parents. More officers kept coming in. By the time we left, there was at least 9 to 10 police cars from University United Methodist Church all the way down to by Clary Field. I'm not Clary, but where Arctic Isle is, that field there, where Valley Field Days is. And there are several other people that are on this call that responded to that. These young girls were in tears. They didn't know how to respond back, and they just kept getting yelled at and pushed up on. So I'm trying to figure out what is the policy for dealing with our youth, because Raise the Age gave us one way of dealing with our youth through the court system, but there's also another way to deal with the youth on the ground. Plus, personally, I've been involved in a couple of cases that have been somewhat public in the newspaper of where you see our children being body slammed, and it might be caught on camera, but it's still happening. They're being cursed at, talked to in a manner, in a way that if I as a parent treated them like that, I would get arrested. So I want to know what the policy is, not use of force, but what is the policy for interaction with children under 16?
Thank you, Twiggy, for that clarification. I will allow again for Chief Carl. I know I'm leaning on you a little bit to answer that question.
Okay, it sounds like that all occurred in the city of Syracuse, but there's an easy response to this. And use of force in dealing with anybody of any age, it doesn't make a difference. The standard on the use of force is the same for every police officer in the country. So age is irrelevant, really. And it's difficult to answer that because every use of force incident involves 4 levels of justification. Is the force reasonable? Is it authorized by state law? Is it necessary? And is it reckless? And those are the same standards throughout the state of New York. So it's kind of difficult to talk about any particular incident, because with every incident, based on the law that police officers follow, even here in New York and Onondaga County, the standard stays the same. We don't differentiate with age.
Thank you, Michael. And Stephanie, I do see a raised hand in the chat. Nate Hoffman.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hassan Rebirth is first, so I will allow him to go first.
Okay. And then Stephanie, after we do those couple of comments, I would like to read some of the comments from the area codes that we are here to speak about today, because we do have a lot of comments that came in from the area codes that we are here to speak about today.
Absolutely. Mr. Rebirth?
Yeah, thank you. My comment was basically to Executive McMahon. It was referring to a specific case with a kid, 16-year-old child, Caillou Boykins, was snatched out of a car by the Onondaga County Sheriffs. It was all on videotape. He was crying before he left the car, and when they finished with him, he ended up in the hospital, leg in a cast, his arms in a cast, his face beat up extremely bad. You can hear them using vulgar language, slamming him to the ground. You can hear them hitting on him. It's all on video on my Facebook page, and I just want to know why hasn't it been addressed yet?
Yeah, so I appreciate the question. So first off, I did see the video, and it was a disturbing video. We did, through our Office of Diversity and Inclusion, Commissioner Monica Williams, reach out to members of the family and we started the dialogue with the sheriff's department. And I believe they are in the process of an internal investigation. What's different related to roles and responsibilities with my job and with, for example, the mayor, is in county government, the sheriff is a separate elected official, and the sheriff answers to you directly. He actually doesn't answer to me really at all, except when I propose a budget. Although the county legislature, the sheriff's department, that's where the checks and balances on policy for law enforcement, is that I can propose laws to the legislature, but the legislature has the final say, and they have the check and balance on the sheriff. But we did, in my office, our Office of Diversity and Inclusion, we do have the Jail Oversight Committee, the Human Rights Commission as well, that we do oversee. So I did see it. Our office did act, and I'm not sure if anyone from the sheriff's office can comment on it or if they're on this call. But again, we want to see this situation resolved as much as anyone else does.
Stephanie, I can comment on that. Joseph Strelly from the sheriff's. That investigation is still ongoing. We should have a conclusion to it soon. It is in the legal review process, and we'll be handling it shortly. There's a few things that still have to be tied up, but that'll be discussed with the people that are involved with the case and along with ourselves.
And thank you, Chief, for responding. And thank you, County Exec McMahon. Our next in line, it will go Darlene Medley, then Nate Hoffman.
Darlene.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for doing this. I want to say, I heard a couple of different things, and I was just a little confused. Like I was hearing about how the treatment is supposed to be the same across the line from county to county. I'm not sure if I missed my own county. I live in Onondaga County currently. Mm-hmm. And I'm just a little confused by that as a African-American female. I myself was just recently pulled over not too long ago, like right before the whole pandemic started. And, you know, I was very upfront with the officer because that's how I was taught to do, is to not lie. So I was very upfront with the officer, very forthcoming. When they pulled us over or whatnot, mind you, we were 3 cars deep. We were celebrating a family member's birthday or whatever the case is. I already knew I was going to be the driver, so I knew I was limited to just 1 drink. Fine. So whatever, they pull us over. When they pull us over, you know, I'm asking the officer, like, why they pulled us over. He never tells me anything, whatever. So they have me out the car. Now, when they have me out the car, they're doing the sobriety test. Fine and dandy, I get it. So I'm outside of this car, I don't even know for how long. This is in the middle of February. It's windy, it's cold, like it was bad out there. So after being out there for quite some time, I've blown now like 2 different times. The officer is saying now basically I refuse to do the breathalyzer. They ended up taking me to their local police department down there. I sat there for like a whole hour. The officer told me I was not going to be placed under arrest. After sitting there for a whole hour, he then goes ahead and has me do another form of a breathalyzer test now. My numbers never blew over anything or anything like that. I'm actually still even going to court for it. But just the whole process of it was, I've never been treated like that. Like I just didn't get it. I didn't understand it. You know, I didn't understand the nastiness behind the officer. It was never a time where I showed the officer like any type of negativity. Like I was, yes, sir, no, sir. Mind you, it was only in my car, it was only 2 of us. They ended up calling 4 more cars for backup. It's 2 little people in this car. They didn't find any weapons, no nothing. Don't get me wrong, they did find marijuana. And the craziest part about that, the marijuana was never mentioned in the police report. I ended up telling my lawyer that on its own. When I went and got my car, even from the impound, all the marijuana was inside of the car still. So they never even took the marijuana, ticketed me for it, no nothing. You know, so it was just, I don't know. I don't know. It was just baffling, like to be treated in such a manner for something as simple as being pulled over and you thinking that, you know, I'm under the influence of alcohol, and then come to find out I really wasn't, so I don't know like really what's being addressed in the community. I keep hearing about these different trainings and things like that, but it doesn't seem like the trainings are really doing any good if the voices are still saying the same thing, like we're not being treated equally. So like, what are we really doing? Like, is it real? Are y'all including real people in these trainings, or is it just like political figures that are just in these trainings? Because I mean, I don't know. I don't get it. I can go on and on, because I have 8 sons at the same time. I've dealt with one that runs away all the time, and I've had an officer tell me, basically, I'm only calling the police to report my son missing because I want to cover my own behind from CPS. I mean, come on. Like, how do you tell a parent something like that? Why? Because I'm African American and I have so many kids. So automatically, like, I'm only covering my behind because of CPS. No, I actually care about my kid. Like, I actually love my kid and want to see him succeed. So again, I'm just concerned and confused on hearing about all these different trainings that are supposedly happening, but still hearing about the same treatment and then receiving the same treatment myself. So that's all I have.
Darlene, we do hear your frustration, and I would like to apologize for your experience that you did have. Is there anyone, one of our police, or we know we pick on Mike a lot, but is anyone else that would like to answer that question?
Darlene, I'm sorry, I did not catch what area you were referring to. I know you mentioned Onondaga County, but do you have a specific police agency that you're referring to? That may help, because we do have multiple chiefs from the different northern cities here. Let me unmute you again, Darlene, I apologize.
Okay, there you go.
I'm sorry, Darlene.
Did I unmute now? You guys can hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
Okay, there you go. Okay. I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not really for good with areas. I think it was either Clay or DeWitt, I want to say. It's one of those two. I'm not 100% sure which one though.
Understood. And I echo.
But it was definitely either Clay or DeWitt.
Understood. So we will be notating that, Darlene. I don't know if our Clay, again, it's Joe Cicerelli, who's here for a sheriff's police, is Clay. So if he would like to touch base on that, I will open the floor for him to do so. Otherwise, your comments have been heard and are being noted, Darlene. That is certainly happening right now.
Well, not knowing exactly where it happened, it's going to be difficult to answer some of the situations that were discussed there. If you want to look on your, did you get a ticket?
Sorry, whenever Darlene mutes herself, I have to unmute her. I apologize.
I mean, Darlene,
I'm sorry about that too, because I mute myself automatically after I answer you guys' questions. I'm sorry.
I mean, the way that we can look at it, did you get a ticket for anything?
Yes, I did get a ticket. Like I said, I'm actually still going to court for it. I'm looking for it right now. My piece of paper right now.
What court are you going to?
That's what I'm looking for right now. I'm about to tell you right now. I'm looking for the piece of paper right now. Give me 2 seconds.
Is it by Great Northern Mall or is it by Shopping Town Mall?
It's DeWitt.
Okay.
Yeah, it's DeWitt, you guys.
Okay.
All right. So that's.
Sorry, yeah, it's DeWitt. I got it.
Okay.
So what I would say, Darlene, is please don't take this as a brush off. We do have another community forum that will be focused on the east side parts of the county that will be held on the 20th of this month, in which the chief of the town of DeWitt Police Department will be present. So if you would like to have that addressed directly to him, you can. Certainly your comments have been taken down, and we will address it in a separate manner. But with that being said, to give equitable time for everybody, we will proceed with the other comments that we have here. And Darlene, please don't take this as a brush off. We certainly have addressed and will address your comments.
Okay, thank you, no problem.
Thank you, Darlene.
Okay, we just want to remind folks again that if you do have a comment, to put raise your hand and we will allow you to comment. I'm going to at this time proceed with some of the comments that came through on the public forum website. And I did misspeak last time. I said area code, but I'm talking about zip codes. So we have a lot of different zip codes come in. We had one from Liverpool, 13090. And the question was, multiple crimes were committed to my son by his old babysitter, and no one arrested. No arrests have been made, and no one replies to me from Clay's sheriff department, not even the supervisor. I need help. I don't even know my son's case number, and I feel like I'm being treated unfair for just trying to get justice for my child. Please help.
Now, Daisha, can you please state the name of the individual that submitted that comment?
Yes, Shakara Freeney.
Thank you. Now, we do have Nate, who has so patiently been waiting. So Nate, it is your turn.
Thank you, Stephanie. I really appreciated a moment ago when you followed up with Darlene as to where the nature of her complaint took place, because one thing I wanted to note from last night is that there seems to be a conspicuous manner in which things are being addressed in these forums. Some people speak up about the way their community is being policed and share horrific stories that have happened to them and to people in their community. And those people generally get a response along the lines of, well, it's just like this across the board, or like, well, it's out of this person's hands and it doesn't work this way. I noted that when Mark Cass spoke up last night, and this is absolutely nothing against Mark Cass, I think he had some valid comments. Chief Buckner immediately asked for the address that Mr. Cass wanted to see more police presence. And I just thought that was a dramatic difference in terms of how some of these people are supplying very specific occurrences, and they're not even being asked on these forums for that same type of specific information that might actually lead to some concrete follow-up by people who could really make that follow-up along the lines of, do you have, like the exchange we saw just now, like, do you have a ticket that has maybe some of that information, like the officer's name on it or something? But I didn't hear those questions last night for several people that shared some horrific stories. And it's like Mr. Lamar Staton said last night, where like this police activity happens in these communities and it makes the municipality money, or it makes the police department money. Like police officers responding to Mr. Cass's call about somebody shooting up, there's gonna be revenue generated from that arrest, right? But there's maybe that follow-up's not occurring because they don't intuit there's going to be revenue generated from following up more thoroughly with victims of police brutality. It just seems like a very conspicuous difference, and something that I hope that people in power would be more aware of, because we're all watching. That was the nature of my comment. I'd like to yield my time.
Thank you, Nate. It's important to have that kind of feedback, right? Because that makes these forums better. That helps us. Thank you so much, Nate.
Happy to help.
Thank you, Nate.
Yeah, I know you're monitoring the chat. Do you see any others?
Not at the moment. I'm still scrolling down as we get a plethora of people commenting, which I appreciate. I'm trying to keep up. In the meantime, if you can read another comment, Nadesha, I will try to get to everybody. Thank you.
Okay, and the only reason why I'm really not reading the names is because I'm figuring if they're on here and they don't want to read their own, they might want theirs to be confidential. So I'm just going to read the zip code if you don't mind. So this one is zip code 13090. Are Onondaga County Sheriff officers equipped with body cameras that must be turned on for interactions with anyone from the public? And that can be answered. We do have our Onondaga County Sheriff.
Yeah, I can answer that.
Chief. Okay, thank you.
At present, we don't have body cameras. It's a thing that's going to take us a little time to get going here. We've been looking at some different options. Again, I hate to say this, but it does come down to some logistics and some monetary issues. But we've got several things in place that we're looking at. It'll be something we're definitely going to be going to. It's just going to be a matter of getting the funding for it and pushing forward.
Okay, thank you. And the next one I'm going to read is from Cicero, but it piggybacks off of the last question. Can they shut them off when they want? Can the police union get access to them before the public can? Where is the video stored? What's the penalty for officers not turning them on or turning them off in the middle of an encounter?
And Nadesha, I see that we have Athena France, who would like to make a comment. I am now unmuting you, Ms. France.
Hi, good evening. My comment was in response to Mr. Hoffman's comment. I believe he said something to the effect of, or he was asking a question rather, where the departments, it's under his belief that they get funding for certain calls or something like that. And I'm not sure where he was going with that. I mean, each department hands over statistical data, and that's all embedded into like FBI statistical analysis, actually. Those departments, obviously, they put together end of the year reports. Those are all sent to town boards, depending on the municipality. Those data reports are actually used, like I said, in the FBI offices to kind of like crime map. It's not necessarily that one call is worth more financially to the other one. I mean, there are grant programs and funding for things like domestic violence assaults and things like that, certainly. But it's not that our officers are only responding to calls because, you know, it's believed through the 911 center that that call would generate additional revenue versus another one. So I just want to be clear on that. I think maybe you're referring to the statistical analysis and the grant fundings that are out there that are based on those statistics. I mean, I would hope that we're not implying that our officers are ignoring calls because, you know, we're not going to make an extra dollar, because that's certainly not the case.
Thank you for that. Stephanie, you're muted.
I thank you, Athena, for that information. I will give Nate a quick second to make sure that that was addressed appropriately in terms of his comment, and then we'll proceed forward.
Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you, Athena, for following up on that. I think my criticism here is much more at the administrative level and with chiefs of departments and such than with the officers themselves. Not that I wouldn't have several critiques for officers themselves. There's just a conspicuous appearance, and it's evident in these forums as it is in our community. I've heard activists talk about it all summer in terms of how different people's concerns are responded to with specific lines of inquiry immediately, and other people's concerns are conspicuously responded to with statements like, well, the budgeting's weird and we're still litigating, and like some of this stuff is really life or death for a lot of people and isn't for others. And again, it's much more of an administrative critique than with the officers themselves, just to clarify. And I, again, yield the rest of my time. Thank you all.
And thank you both for your comments tonight. I do see that we have a comment in the chat. I apologize, the chat is moving, so my comments are moving.
That's why I'm not monitoring them.
So the comment comes from Ms. Deborah M, and it goes as follows. What specifically is being considered as alternatives to policing? There has been much in the news about police responding to mental health crises. By the time someone calls the police, hasn't the situation perhaps progressed past the point where a calm conversation might solve the problem? I might be asking two questions. The zip code is 1208. Thank you, Deborah, from the town of Salina. So let me see. We do have a subcommittee that does address alternatives to police response. That is headed by Linda Irvin, one of the legislators. here in Onondaga County, which is certainly looking to address responding to calls that involve mental health crises. And we're looking at incorporating different resources like Liberty Resources, CPEP, and the likes in terms of having them present as they as police are called to a scene that involves mental health crises. So we are addressing that and looking into different ways of how to properly handle those responses, and whether it involves a dual response from a mental health team as well as from the police. These are things that we are addressing in our committees here. So thank you, Deborah, for your comment here. And do we have, and Nadesha, if you can continue reading some of our comments that came in from the north side that were pre-submitted.
Okay. We have one from Brewerton. So area code 13029. We have lived here for over 30 years, and as of late, it appears that there are fewer and fewer Cicero police officers in this area. The crime rate has increased, the speeding vehicles are out of control, with no sign of law enforcement around. I feel an increase of officers is vital to this small hamlet to keep us safer and less attract unlawful offenders. When there is a lack of law enforcement in the area, it becomes more appealing to this. We have elementary and high school schools in this area, and when you read our break-ins and hear about the speeding cycles of vehicles, you cringe and pray that no injuries or deaths are results. I respect the reform is a big issue now, but I don't think reducing the force is the answer. So they want more police officers in Brewerton, New York, because of increased crimes, and they don't think that having less officers out there is necessary right now. Do we have any police officers or chiefs from?
Yeah, I know Chief Steve Rotuno is here. Hi, Chief.
How you doing?
Well, thank you for being here, Chief.
Thank you. Part of our reform process, we did do a citizen satisfactory survey, and this topic was one of the subject that came back in our surveys: traffic, quality of life issues, and I worked with a representative of our Cicero Advisory Committee, and she developed a PowerPoint, which is on our website, which is ciceropd.us. You can go to that website. You can see the survey of our citizen survey, the results of that. And so we did identify that there is a need for additional police officers in Cicero from the comments that we received and the statistics that we ran through the 911 center. I have been working with the Cicero Town Board to address this issue. And it's a work in progress, but I think we're on the right page to hopefully increase our staff a little bit and address some of the quality of life and traffic concerns here in Cicero.
Thank you, Chief. Nadesha, I do see that we have some hands raised. I will go in alphabetical order because I'm not sure who raised their hand first. Yes. So Angela De Jesus, your 4 minutes will begin now, once you're unmuted. Angela, where are you? Let's try this one more time. Mr. De Jesus, I'm asking you to unmute. Did his screen freeze?
I think so. You cannot move the US.
All right, Mr. De Jesus, as we try to get your unmuted, I will go to the next raised hand, which is Mr. Albert Hubbard.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. First things first, I want to respond. I want to comment on Miss Darlene's statement and the response to her comment. Chief, no disrespect to you, but we have an issue here. We're facing a moment of police brutality, of discriminations in policing. You saw it on Wednesday, which everybody loves to clutch their pearls about in the Capitol, where the police response to Black Lives Matter or leftist protesters or something is very heavy-handed, but there is no police protest or no police presence when it's a bunch of white people coming out to support XYZ. So we're talking specifically about the discrepancy in the way that people are treated, and it should be taken note of and not excused. Well, that wasn't my department, that, you know, I can't speak to that, blah, blah, blah. The discrepancy between Miss Darlene's issue, where she was breathalyzed 3 times after being pulled over because they suspected her of being drunk, and the time that happened to me as well, at 2 o'clock in the morning, an officer, just concerned that I might be drunk, pulled me over and breathalyzed me once and then let me go. This is what we're talking about in this moment, and this is what needs to be addressed and not hand waved away as if that's not my department. The other thing I would like to know, and these are not actual questions that I'm looking for answers. I am speaking I'm speaking to the moment right now. On that first, when you showed us that slide earlier, there was focus, deterrent, and hotspot areas. Those are things that you wish to address going forward in police reform. And to the last comment of there's not enough police in my area, these spaces where there are hotspots in crime and we need focus, deterrent.
Hello?
Policing is by nature reactionary, right? You don't get accosted before you commit a crime. You get addressed after the fact. Now, when we talk about those deterrent areas and those hotspots, the one thing that you will notice is that all of them are extremely impoverished. They're lacking resources. And every single department in this state, in this country, has found that they have to hit cuts. They have to get budget cuts, budget cuts, budget cuts. Now, with the exception of police municipalities like the town of Cicero or the village of Liverpool or whatever, every police department has seen their budget rise. But we haven't seen a decrease in crime. We've seen an increase in crime, and that increase in crime is directly correlated to the resources that are available. So every city in the world, including Chicago, just saying, we're the first to do this, or, you know, let's be the first county to say, we're going to put our money behind lifting people out of poverty into getting housing security, into saying, you know, we're going to make sure that these kids have good schools, that they have the resources necessary to grow up and survive and not have to fight over resources in the future by committing crime, by getting involved in gang violence or drugs or XYZ. And that way the police departments only have to focus on, you know, maybe pulling people over, or when a serious crime is committed, they can respond to it, as opposed to trying to have a heavy presence that makes people feel uncomfortable and like they're being watched. If you are told every day of your life that you're a criminal, right, by the way that police officers treat you, they look at you like a criminal, chances are you're going to feel like the only thing you can be is a criminal. And I would yield my time.
Thank you, Albert. And you did have a couple of more seconds, but thank you for that.
And I would say thank you again for that comment, Albert. Certainly, these are things that we want to address. And this is why Governor Cuomo put it in his executive order specifically that we address these 14 points, including the hotspots and focus deterrence. And so therefore, we will be looking into this in a collaborative countywide effort here to see about what can be done differently when it involves our community and the members in our community here, white, black, purple. How do we handle them all equally, as they should be handled equally? So thank you, Albert, for your comment. It was very well put. Thank you.
Can anybody hear me?
And yes, Mr. De Jesus, I was just about to say, it's your turn
Okay.
now.
Yes. Yes, there we go. Hello, everybody.
Thank you. Let me start the timer. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say a few things. I'm currently going through a situation right now where my home was raided by some officers, and they didn't have a warrant. They had me, they apprehended me somewhere around the corner, and they took me to my house. And again, I'm gonna say it again, they did not have a warrant. They picked me up. I was in a parking lot. They dragged me, put me in their vehicle, then took me to my home. And yet again, without a warrant, and they were sitting in my house watching TV, laughing, giggling, going through my house. I just want to know where the justice at, because I never really spoke about this. I just been quiet. I've been letting my attorney, and she was supposed to be here. Miss Annie Porter, I don't know where she is. Hopefully she join in. I don't know. I just want justice. Where's the justice is? They were in my house for I don't even know, for numerous hours, and I'm like, "Where's your warrant?" And nobody's telling me anything. They're like, "We're working on it, working on it, working on it." I don't know. I'm just confused. I have a lot of questions. A lot of questioning, and I'm not sure if you guys will be able to answer these questions within these little few minutes that I have right now while I'm on the platform right now. I don't know, man. Maybe somebody could join in and give me some type of.
So, Mr. De Jesus, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you at all.
Yes.
I do understand, as you indicated, that you are represented by defense counsel. So therefore, we're not able, from the DA's office standpoint, to go any further into your case and give any further details. But we definitely have heard you. We have noted that there has been some discrepancies that you're putting forth here in terms of how the police handled your case. So it's something that we will look into, but unfortunately we can't go into detail since it is an open case from the DA's office standpoint. Okay. Thank you though for expressing your comments and your concerns.
No
Mr.
problem.
De Jesus.
No problem.
Nadesha, if you can continue reading some of the comments that are coming through as I look at the chat.
Okay, no problem. I do want to just state that we have about 18 minutes left. Question. This is area code 13027. It's the village of Baldwinville. I live in the village of Baldwinville, and we have our own police department. It's not very big, and they don't have issues anywhere near the scale of the city like Syracuse. But I still worry that perhaps they have little to no oversight, or are they held accountable? I have absolutely no idea, and I don't think residents are informed on if they have body cameras or if the village of Liverpool has the use of force policy. The village of Baldwinville, sorry.
And we do have the chief of Baldwinsville Police Department here, Chief Lafacek. I apologize if I mispronounced that, please.
Not a problem. It's Lefencheck. Yes, I'd be happy to respond to that. To answer the question of whether we have body cameras or not, the answer to that, at the present time, we do not. Body cameras are being ordered. I hope to implement body cameras by the middle of this year. However, we have had in-car cameras in our cars for over 20 years, and I found those to be very receptive and useful. We have a social media presence that we articulate things out to our residents, as well as I do a monthly social media question and answer with a local individual here that's posted and gives the opportunity for citizens to ask questions and to interact with our agency. And then to respond to the question of whether there's oversight, I can assure you we have a number of supervisors in the department. It is a small agency of about 17 individuals, but there's myself, a lieutenant, and 3 sergeants. So we do have a fairly robust supervisory staff. And if there's issues that are brought to us, we take direct and immediate attention to them and investigate those to determine whether there's any corrective action that's needed and address those issues in a timely fashion.
Thank you, Chief. Now, Nadesh, I see that we have a raised hand, so it will go in this order. Ms. Monique De Jesus will go first, and then Darlene Medley does have another question, so Darlene will go after Monique.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, Monique, we can hear you.
Hi, how are you? Good evening, everybody, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. Now, I kind of want to speak on the police. And for so many years, I've always respected the police. I've always believed if they said something that it was true. If they said the sky was red, I would believe them because they are the police. I recently was in a situation with my husband, and it's sad to say that in a situation where police officers can actually say something and it can go on record as if it's the truth. So now, since George Floyd and the situation in Minnesota, we see that they have an order where it's the 50A, where now we can see if there were any disciplinary records for these officers. What's happening now is that a lot of these officers' disciplinary records in Syracuse Police Department are not being shown. They're not giving us the opportunity to look at them. I can go on multiple sites in Rochester, Buffalo, New York City, and I can look up police officers and I can get their information. But here in Syracuse, it's not, we're not able to do it. I've put in forms for the FOIL. There's no entity or no means of getting it. Even with the FOIL, it doesn't really state on how you can maintain these records. I want to know what are the steps that I can do to get these records for the officers in this situation that I went through. What can I do to get it and also get it in a timely fashion?
Thank you, Ms. De Jesus, for your comments here. I understand that you've had a negative interaction with the police, and I want to make sure I'm answering this correctly. The specific interaction was with Syracuse Police Department?
Yes, it was several police officers, about 12. And I want to know what are the steps, because you can actually go online and look up the FOIL request, and there's no way that you can actually submit it. It doesn't give you an option. It says it there, it's a request, but it really doesn't give you an option to where you can go and put these officers' names in and get any records. What are the steps that, and I also wrote the mayor. I wrote the mayor on these actions and what can we do to do this? Because this is one of the executive orders of Governor Cuomo. So what is it that I can do? Because I have a legal right to get this information and I have not received it at all.
And understood, Ms. De Jesus. Now, we do have one of our county attorneys here on the call by the name of Mr. David Chaplin. I will be asking him to help in terms of responding to that question.
Thank you so much.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you for your question, and so sorry to hear about the experience you had. What I can say is that although the governor did pass the law, and it is the law of the land from an executive order standpoint, it is currently under litigation. And so law enforcement agencies have sued the pursuit of those records, and until that is finalized in court here locally, unfortunately, or fortunately, to a degree, those records will not be available.
Thank you, David, for your response. Ms. De Jesus, I am asking you to unmute if that is the answer to your question. If the question was actually answered appropriately.
The question was actually answered.
Okay.
However, is it just for Onondaga County that they're not available?
So is it a follow-up question?
Yeah, I can't speak for other jurisdictions.
Okay. But right now it's just for Onondaga County that they're not making these disciplinary records available for the public.
Maybe Chief Cicerelli can speak to Onondaga County Sheriff, but I know with SPD it's currently in litigation, I believe.
Okay. Thank you so much. And again, who am I speaking to?
David Chaplin, County Attorney's Office.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're muted, Stephanie.
Thank you, David, for being here and answering that question. I do see that Ms. Relaford has put her name in, so we will go with Ms. Relaford.
And good afternoon, everyone. I apologize. My computer is updating, so I'm using my cell phone. But I just wanted to step in and reiterate that the Citizens Review Board has jurisdiction over the Syracuse Police Department. Our office telephone number is 315-448-8750. And if your complaint is related to the Syracuse Police Department, you can file a complaint with our office. We are still open. We are still operating. We are providing complaints via email and mail, and I am also delivering them to people's houses if that is a better way for you to receive it. In terms of the FOIL requests, those have to be addressed to the law department for the city of Syracuse. I can provide you with more information with regard to that as well, to give you an email and things of that nature. So please, I'm asking for Angel or Monique, I'm sorry, I may have said that wrong, to reach out to our office. Again, that telephone number is 315-448-8750. And I will put the email in the chat, and I will also put the telephone number in the chat as well. But we do have jurisdiction over the Syracuse Police Department as an oversight agency. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Relaford. And Nagesha beat you to it. She put the phone number in the chat, but if you can put the email for them in the chat, we would much appreciate it. Thank you. Now, I do want to note that we do have 7 more minutes here. This community forum is focused on the northern sides of our county. So before we begin with any other people that have raised their hand, I just want to make sure that for those who are in the northern side of our county, they have a chance to be heard. And so if you are in the northern side of the county, please put your name in the chat. Let us know that you're from the north side, and then we'll go ahead and get to you as soon as possible before time runs out. But with that being said, I will let Mr. Rebirth who has his hand raised to address this forum again.
I just wanted to say that oftentimes when we're riding through Liverpool or Clay or Cicero or any of those places, we're as a black and brown person, we tend to go the exact speed limit or slightly under the speed limit because oftentimes we're scared of what's going to happen, or we're getting pulled over, or what's going to happen when we get pulled over. And we wanted to know, like, basically, there's a lot of profiling and racism in those towns. And what are these municipalities and these police departments doing to reinvent police in those municipalities or in those jurisdictions?
I do believe you addressed a few of our agencies, that we have a few of our chiefs here. Let me correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Rebirth. You cited Cicero, Liverpool, and I believe there was another one.
Yes.
Clay.
Yes, Clay.
Okay. Thank you. So I will let Cicero go first. So Chief Rotania.
All right, thanks a lot. I can rest assured that the Cicero police do not profile anybody. We're not the only law enforcement agency that serves the town of Cicero. The sheriffs and the troopers also, and I'm pretty confident that neither do they. We take a lot of pride in our position as a police officer up here, and I can personally tell you that I instruct my police officers to treat others how they expect people to treat their own families. Unless we have reasonable cause to believe or probable cause to stop a vehicle, we don't stop a vehicle, whether it's for speeding, running a stop sign, running a red light. And that's just fact with the Cicero Police Department. We take a lot of pride in the way we treat people, all people, and we treat people how we expect people to treat our families. And that's what I have to say.
And I'm sorry, we do have Sheriff Joe Cicerelli, who can help in terms of Clay, because I believe Clay is also policed by the Sheriff's Department.
I'm going to just reiterate what Chief Fortuno said. You know, we feel the same way. I have my director of training here, and he can discuss this. Is Lieutenant Dykes in regards to some of the training that we've been doing in regards to cultural diversity.
Thanks for the question. It's a great question. I just wanted to add on to what Chief Cicerelli and Chief Fortuno said. You know, we do our best to make sure that we're preparing our employees, you know, to not engage in this behavior. Some of the things that the Sheriff's Office has done over the past year that I think is definitely related to the question. We have trained our entire police force in implicit bias and cultural competence. So we brought Dr. Bryant Marks from the National Institute, Training Institute on Race and Equity, brought him from Atlanta, Georgia, Morehouse College to Onondaga County. And thankfully, we've been able to train our entire police department. So training is ongoing. We have some more training ideas as they relate to implicit bias and cultural diversity. We're working with Monica Williams and Montanette Murphy at the county's Office of Diversity and Inclusion for more ideas on how we can train our folks to you know, combat some of the things that the members of our community are concerned with respect to race.
Thank you, Chiefs, for responding and being here tonight. And thank you for your comment, Rebirth. It has been expressed in other forums, similar comments to that. And I do appreciate you re-expressing it. It's something that we will also address for all municipalities and agencies. So thank you, Rebirth. Deborah is next. I believe, Darlene, I apologize. Darlene is next, so I am going to unmute her.
And Stephanie, real quick, we just, to be respectful of everyone's time, we don't mind staying on and continuing. If you need to leave, please leave, but I think we're gonna answer a couple of more questions, right, Stephanie?
Just a few more. I believe Darlene is the last one. I did skip her previously, so I want to give her her opportunity.
Okay.
I guess my question would be for the DA's office, I think. What is the protocol when a person is, you know, deals with the police, whatever the case is, their property is taken, like what's the protocol, especially now with COVID being in place? I know before it was you had to wait for the court date and your lawyers and things like that, but court dates are constantly getting pushed back. And so like people kind of are having to constantly keep waiting to try and figure out like how they can go about getting their stuff back. And just to piggyback off of something else I heard, you know, when I was growing up as a kid, the one thing that I did love about where I grew up at, which is in New York City, it wasn't here unfortunately, was we had community policing. Like I knew that those officers were going to be in my neighborhood around X, Y, and Z times. They might not have the same times every day, but I knew I was familiar with these 12 officers, and these 12 officers were familiar with my great grandmother who was raising me at the time. So even when my great grandmother wasn't in sight, or you know, like the police would say something and they would say, "Hey, you don't want me to tell your grandmother, do you?" And I knew to get in line right then because that officer really knows my grandmother. And when I got here, it just was different for me here because I didn't see that. So, you know, kind of gave me another cloud, kind of, so to speak, because when I got here, I was a teenager still. So it kind of gave me a cloud kind of to be a little bit more looser away from my mother, if you kind of follow what I'm saying here, because she didn't have that extra backup of a part of that village because the police are supposed to be a part of the village, but you know, it's a way that we can do it where, again, like if you're listening to the voices, I heard what the two leaders said, you know, from the different villages with the different police entities, and they were saying they're teaching their officers this, that, and the third. But if you're really listening to the voices, it's no way that the voices are saying the same thing over and over. You may be teaching that and saying that, but we're not being treated like that in any way, shape, or form. So evidently something isn't working. We're losing it somewhere down the line. So maybe we need to go back to that, you know, I don't know if y'all had this up here, but the community police, like, you know that these police are designated to your community. So you're going to see them every day around X, Y, and Z time. They're going to get to know the community. Like something has to give sooner or later. We can't keep getting to this wall and everybody keeps saying the same thing. Because I mean, I don't know. It's just, it has to be a better way to do this, man. It really does.
And I will let you know your voice has been heard, Darlene, with regards to community policing. It's something that our committee members have been looking into and seeing about the feasibility of that. Now, to work county-wide. Now, going back to your first comment as it pertains to property release here in the DA's office, the procedure here that we have in the DA's office, if your property has been taken during an incident with the police, having been arrested, what you do is you come to the DA's office at 505 South State Street to the 4th floor. You will see one of our receptionists there. You will ask for a property release form. You are to fill out that property release form as detailed as possible. If there is a criminal charge, there's normally a reference number that we refer to as a DR number. If you have that DR number, you would put it down. You have to put down the name of the individual that has ownership of that property and who the property will be released to, if they have permission to be released to a different individual. And then you sign that. It will go to the ADA that is handling that specific case to review the property release form to see if it's property that is pertinent to the case that we will not be releasing at the time, if the case is still open, or if it's something that is releasable because it has no evidentiary value to the case. So that ADA will make a determination as to whether or not the property should be released upon request, and then we'll submit a letter to you letting you know one way or the other if the property will be released. And so you should be getting a call from one of the receptionists as it pertains to whether your property will or will not be released. But that is the procedure here in terms of getting your property back. So it doesn't matter if a court appearance has been pushed back. You can always make a request for your property to be released to you at any point in time. And with that, I do apologize. We have run out of time, and I want to say this has been an amazing conversation. And you know, we have heard a lot of grievances, which we are taking into account. We are acknowledging your grievances, and they are important because police reform is something that we are tackling and do believe is something that should be addressed here in Onondaga County. And I do appreciate those who have had good interactions with the police and have notified us of those good interactions as well. And I want to thank everybody for being here, from Senator May to County Exec Ryan McMahon, and Nadesha for being one of the most amazing facilitators. Thank you, Nadesha.
You're welcome.
Now, with that being said, I will say at this time, we're no longer taking any verbal comments, but please do not hesitate to submit any comments to the chat or to the email directly at nyspr@ongov.net and or through our website on policereform.ongov.net. We have a public comment tab in which you can submit public comments that way as well. So please do not hesitate to do so. Our next community forum is going to be focused in the city of Syracuse, on the eastern neighborhoods of the city of Syracuse, on Tuesday, the 19th. Same bad time, same bad place, 5 o'clock to 6:30. So please join us there as well. And then our final community forum will be held on the 20th, which will be focused on the eastern parts of Onondaga County, which I do note, I believe it was Darlene that had an issue with one of policing in the town of DeWitt. So please join us, Darlene, and the rest of you, please join us for that as well. I know it conflicts with the inauguration, but please join us here for our community forum. Thank you all. Hi, Linda. I don't know if you can hear me, but thanks for being here.
Stephanie, how are you?
I'm doing well, Linda. Thank you.
Did it go well tonight? I got on towards the end.
It went well.
Good.
We're still recording. I think we had a really great conversation tonight as well.
Well, good.
So let me ask Ms. Murphy, I have asked you to unmute. I'm sorry, I missed a comment from you.
Yeah, I just wanted to get your, hi Linda, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Hi, Mr. Stanton, and hi, everyone else. I just wanted to get your number, just so I can be connected with you. Someone brought up the information about the property release, and my office gets quite a few calls from individuals who are trying to track down their property. And it would be good to have a connection over at the DA's office if that's okay.
Yeah, most certainly. I
I'm
will
gonna
give
say
you my,
goodbye. Take care.
Bye, Linda.
Bye, Linda. Have a good night.
I will give you my extension
Okay.
here at the DA's office.
Yep, you can send your extension. I'll send you mine as well. I'm the administrator of the Justice Center, and so of the Justice Center Oversight Committee, and we get tons of calls from people who they're really trying to track down their property, and it would be good information. 63565 to be able to tell them exactly that whole process. I mean, we don't get a lot of calls, but there was a call just the other day where there's their loved ones who are trying to locate a wallet. So
Understood. Yeah, and most certainly, please feel free to call me. I do know that the information is also on the website, which, duh, I should have mentioned that. But yes, please feel free if you're not able to find it on the website to give me a shout.
okay, and you know what I'll do? I'll look on that website. I'll look on the website as well, and then have that information readily available for them. And if it's anything that's a little too complicated or too complex, I'll reach out to you.
Perfect.
Okay. Have a great night. It's good to meet
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too.
Save chat. All right. Stop video.